Welcome to Behind Recap YouTube channel. Army is accomplishing historical operations to liberate Russian-occupied territories in step with the statistics shared by the Ukrainian Protection Ministry. 740 squaddies have died inside the Russian Navy in the closing 24 hours. Russia is experiencing the most tough days in history. How did the Russian army suffer such a defeat in one of these quick time period? What is the motive for the defeat of the Russian military? Where in areas does the Ukrainian Navy have the upper hand permits? Solution those questions one by one. To start with, it need to be stated that the Ukrainian military has clearly received a top hand on this conflict. The Ukrainian military has managed to free up greater than one half of the territories occupied through Russia. Russia is losing manage over more and more territories. The Ukrainian Navy maintains to strike Russia's bases. The use of Kimmer's army barracks in the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol was destroyed by means of the Ukrainian military, consistent with the Ukrainian military. Extra than 200 Russian infantrymen misplaced their lives on this operation, according to reports inside the British press. Russian forces had been using an inn in Melitopol as a barracks. The hammers used by Ukraine, controlled to completely wreck this motel. To the Russian military cannot find an area to stay in the occupied territories. Russia's infantrymen are experiencing incredible worry. Some of the squaddies in military global commenced to flee from the hotels wherein they had been staying. Some of the Russian infantrymen surrendered to the Ukrainian military, while others are trying to conceal in the houses of neighborhood residents. The metropolis of Melitopol and Zaporizhia Oblast is of terrific strategic importance. If the Ukrainian Navy manages to free up the Ligibel, it'll get nearer to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. This ought to absolutely exchange the path of the warfare. The Russian army is massing troops around the Parisian nuclear electricity plant. This plant, one of the largest nuclear power vegetation in Europe, is being utilized by the Russian army for a nuclear chance. The Ukrainian Navy does now not pump this place remotely to save damage to the nuclear electricity plant. That's why Russia is building up a navy buildup around the plant. However, the Ukrainian military is getting toward the gap each day. If the Ukrainian Navy manages to stop the Russian career of this Palmer plant, the Russian military will suffer a huge loss. Russia's losses are growing day by way of day. Having hooked up superiority in Melitopol, the Ukrainian military maintains to perform very essential operations in other areas. Bakhmut is one of the regions wherein clashes are intensifying. The Russian military is making an excellent attempt to occupy this city in Ukraine's Donetsk Goldblast. However, the Ukrainian Navy does not permit Russia to occupy this city. The Global Institute for the Study of War has been publishing hanging reviews on the war on this location. In keeping with these reports, Russia is struggling huge losses. Right here, Russia made certainly one of its largest mistakes, for the reason that starting of the battle by way of seeking to invade this region backward has been one of the maximum damage areas for the Russian army. Having retreated on all fronts, to Russian Navy launched an offensive to win the war in a single area. By occupying this place, Russia become making plans to make more intense propaganda towards its own people. But the Ukrainian Navy is disrupting this plan of Putin by means of following very important techniques in this area. The Ukrainian military manages to repel Russia's assaults. Some other explosion in this conflict occurred at a base for Russian Navy mercenaries. Soldiers of the Wagner Institution, Russia's mercenary organization, are staying in resorts inside the occupied territories. The mercenaries staying in a motel in the metropolis of Kadify within the Luhansk area suffered heavy damage inside the face of an attack by the Ukrainian Navy, who has Governor Sergei Idai said that the hotel become hit by Ukrainian forces, and the elite soldiers of the organization suffered large losses. In line with the governor, one half of the soldiers within the inn died as an end result of the